Well, hey folks, it's your old pal King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills, and prepare to hit unsubscribe because we're talking about Rings of Power again. Now, it occurs to me after watching this fourth episode that if we really want to piss in Amazon's Cheerios, the thing to do would be the crowd that's currently against Rings of Power should embrace it. Because the show, aside from its scattershot, multi-ethnic casting, isn't very woke at all. You hear lines being delivered from people like, this will always be a kingdom of men, and the crowd cheers. Or, the way the elves be like, oh, are you sure you want to be working with one of the other races? And all that kind of stuff. Is that really what a woke setting would be doing? In this episode, we actually, they didn't stall forever. We were actually starting to see, okay, yes, Galadriel's character arc for her being kind of single-mindedly determined to, piss everyone off in Middle-earth, to her, learning a little bit of diplomacy from a random scallywag that she met in the sea. It was nice not having the Harfoots in an episode. I'm sure we'll get plenty of overload from them later. I don't know. I've kind of mixed feelings about the whole Mithril plot line, if that really needed to be brought up now. They seem to have just, speaking of the fact that the Harfoots were entirely left out of this episode, and in the previous episode there was absolutely nothing with Elrond and the dwarves at all. It feels like they have one plot line too many, because they can't seem to jump between everything in one single episode. They always seem to have to leave some segment out. So there's a little bit of this leapfrogging thing going on. There's only supposedly 8 episodes in this season, so we're already to the halfway point. What kind of resolution this season's going to end on? My guess at this point would be, either a reveal of Gandalf or a reveal of Sauron. There's still, some debate on who the weird guy that the Harfoots found in the crater. I feel narratively it would make more sense for that to be, Gandalf and not Sauron, but no telling where they're going to go with that. I do felt you actually got a little bit more of a just slightest hint of orc character development, and I feel that's another thing that the show had an opportunity to do would be to actually have, some major orc characters that were also following their stories and plots. Even if they're still the villains, it doesn't hurt to get to know your villains and stuff. But, it's because of the orc thing and a few other things, like I was saying, despite the casting, the show's not actually all that terribly woke, as people seem to assume it was going to be. And so here's the thing. One of the major things that's keeping the woke crowd from attacking the show is the fact that, quote-unquote right-wing nerddom is against it. It's like, oh, well, these horrible racist bigots don't like this show, so we got to support it as kind of like as a fuck you to them. And we're going to pretend that we like it. And we're going to talk about how great it is on social media, even though obviously they're not really watching it in the numbers that the people at Amazon would like them to be watching. So, if certain key YouTubers who are, higher up in the cascade effect were to start, embracing this show and saying, you know what, we changed our minds. We actually are liking this, and start making more positive stuff about it. What you'll end up happening is that, the Kotaku-type journalists and the Twitter SJWs might start noticing the fact that, well, this is a bit problematic. And also, all those complaints that you hear about how Dungeons and Dragons is racist, and basically, by default, the entire fantasy genre is racist or sexist or bigoted, well, then they will start turning against the show and start making, oh my God, it's not messaging properly and all that kind of stuff. Start writing articles about, the racial supremacist views of elves, and is that good for children to be seeing, and all that kind of stuff. And how come the orcs are just automatically bad guys, and orcs have feelings too, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, just some tactical thoughts. I mean, as an episode, it was an episode, so, still seeing where it's going. The pacing is off-center. One of the things about Middle-earth is that the setting itself is a major character. And whereas, yeah, we get glimpses of these like CGI generated backgrounds and cities and stuff, I don't feel it has yet really done a good job at actually really making you feel like you're living in this world alongside these characters. The fact that they skip around in the travel scenes so much and just immediately just go from point A to point B and don't get any of that long walk that the elves had to make to get up to Khazad Dûm and all that kind of stuff. I feel kind of in a mild way detracts, from what is essentially the central character of the Lord of the Rings and the Middle Earth setting, which is the world itself. And I don't know, like the usual things. Numenor is, I'm mixed feelings on it. It's as much as it makes sense that it has this Greco-Roman flavor. I like it. That really just makes me feel like I'm watching a really overly produced episode of Xena Warrior Princess, as I've discussed in previous videos. The fact that it's like, I don't know, there's all this backstory that's not explained already. Like this show itself needs a prequel set several thousand years before it. I found the moment where Elrond is talking about his dad and how his dad became, basically a constellation to carry the Morning Star around. In the Silmarillion, since that's written out as just like a tales of, like a long mythological epic poem kind of a thing, that it's acceptable in that form. But hearing an actual person say that stuff about, oh, and now my dad is in the heavens carrying the star around, it seems kind of bullshitty, actually coming out of an actual person's mouth. And I'm not sure if the show is served well by that kind of stuff. I don't know. Got this far into it, so I'm at least going to try to stick it out through the end of this season. With the amount of money they're spending, too, why only 8 episodes? With the kind of budget they're throwing around, like, we can't even get a 12-episode series. Like, do you remember how TV shows used to have, like, over 20 episodes per season? Or, look back at, like, original Star Trek and stuff. I mean, they'd have, like, 33 episodes in season 1 or something like that. And now we're down to, like, oh, you're lucky if you can get 6 episodes of She-Hulk before they run out of money and that kind of thing. How you're spending your cash. I mean, the high fidelity, background graphics are all well and good, but, if you want to actually have a properly developed story, we need more episodes with these characters so it can be paced out better. Also, because of the weird way that the timeline is kind of starting to not really match with itself, one day passes in between scenes for hobbits, but, like weeks must have passed in between scenes for other characters because the amount of time they would have had to spend traveling back and forth, or the amount of construction that the dwarves have already done on Celebrimbor's tower and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I think a lot of that could have been smoothed out if they had given themselves more episodes and spent a little bit less money on the CGI. But I guess that's just me. Just remember, though, if you really want to take them down a notch and see them suffer for their hubris, then you need to do a little reverse psychology. The fans that are currently against Rings of Power need to find a way to be happy with Rings of Power and embrace it and say what a good thing it is. And that will get the other side to then turn on it. And then that side, of course, has all the big online magazines and such that everyone cares about. And like I said, they just put out all these articles about how racist D&D is, and all the same things apply to the Lord of the Rings in terms of like the ethnic makeup of these sorts of settings, where you have this like hierarchy of humans and elves and orcs and so on and so forth, yada yada yada. Or there's a few British people who have seen comment on the show and pointing out that it's weird that it kind of follows the British ethnic hierarchy of the British Isles, where the elves have that posh upper class accent. The humans just kind of talk like your average lowlander peasants. The dwarves are all Scottish, obviously, and the Hobbit gypsies are have the yes sure and begorra hara hitty is the Michel kind of stereotypical Irish bullshit. So I don't know. There's a wedge there that can be used to turn their own team against them. However, that team is not likely to do that as long as their opposition is against the show. If they feel that the people that they're out to punish like the show, then they will want to punish that show because they don't want Team B to have anything that they like, right? Or at least that's the theory. So I guess that's it for my thoughts on Rings of Power, Episode 4, The Power Ring of the Power of the Lord. Until next time, stay ringinated.